Very cool, very excited. It's nice when we get experts who will reach out and help us break down some situations. Michael McCarthy works for the Sporting News. You can follow him on Twitter at MMcCarthyRev, R-E-V. The NFL ratings, Mike, have taken a big hit this season. Are we seeing Americans care less about the National Football League?
The answer is yes. They do care less about the National Football League. Wow. I think there's a real question of whether or not the NFL has hit its ceiling. You got a lot of dog games, lopsided scores, too many commercials, and then you throw in the Kaepernick protest, which has offended a lot of people, and some people are just fed up.
You don't think this has anything to do also with the fact that the NFL is now on a Thursday, Sunday, Monday? Is it just being oversaturated with NFL all day long, 24/7, 365, it feels like?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the Thursday night may have been a game too far. The NFL tried to take over Thursday night the way it took over Sunday night, and it's backfiring. The games aren't good. The coaches hate playing those games. The players hate playing in those games. And the ratings have been terrible for Thursday night football. And, you really have to wonder if the NFL is on too long. I mean, when you combine it with college football, it's just nonstop football. We're in a time where people have a lot of different entertainment options, and they're turning away.
Michael McCarthy of the Sporting News with us right here on 104.5 The Team. Mike, can you believe we're in a situation where we're actually saying too much football?
I know we never would have said that last year, but, there's so many different things that are X factors this year. For one thing, this presidential campaign is just sucking up all the oxygen in the room. It's so crazy, and it's so soap opera-like that people are turning to Fox News and to CNN, to MSNBC. And the second thing I think, and Sporting News has been one of the only places really reporting on this, is I think these protests have offended a lot of the blue-collar fans who revere the flag and the national anthem. They don't look at it as a piece of cloth like Colin Kaepernick does. And these people are out there publicly saying over and over, I am not watching the NFL anymore.
Mike, what kind of confuses me is that I would have thought, if someone said, okay, what will make the NFL peak and start its descent, is that it would have been an injury in a big-time game, that a mother saw a player get hurt, they said, I don't want my son doing that, and that would have been the downfall of the NFL. That's what it would have seemed like. But the Kaepernick situation, it seems like, is a direct result of that. Are you surprised that it's Kaepernick rather than the injury being the descent for the NFL when it comes to the fan in America?
I'm not surprised at all because, I've covered advertising and marketing. What you have here is a brand that's not living up to his promise in the eyes of the boycott NFL people. They believed in all this patriotic stuff that they saw at NFL games for 50 years, the military flyovers, the salutes to the police and the military. Now they feel like the NFL has betrayed them, that they were just conning them all along with a bunch of game day heroics, but they didn't really believe any of it.
Michael McCarthy of the Sporting News right here on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York Jets football. So Mike, when you look at this, is this a salvageable situation for the NFL, or are we looking at a spot where maybe the NBA or Major League Baseball could steal their thunder?
Absolutely, it's a salvageable situation. I think NBA and MLB are stealing their thunder right now. NBA is the hottest league in the world. And if you notice, MLB has been having great ratings, postseason ratings. In that sport, nobody has protested the flag of the national anthem. I think what the NFL needs is a couple of things. They need some new stars. Brady being suspended, Peyton retired, Tony Romo injured. Those guys are all ratings grabbers. They need some new stars who are going to be able to attract people to TV. And frankly, they need some better games. They need better football.
Is it anything to do with how the product's being consumed now? Because I'm a younger viewer of the NFL. I watch Red Zone. I'll have people on Twitter that will stream the game like that. Does that have anything to do with the overall consumption of the NFL? That maybe the sport, we're looking at games that are 3+ hours, and there's always talk about baseball being too long, but the NFL games are long. It has nothing to do with the millennial viewer consuming the product in a different fashion.
I think that's a great question. I was actually discussing it with my students at Rutgers the other day. People don't sit down and watch a 3-4 hour game. I think I'm the only one who does that. I'll sit down and I'll watch the Giants for 4 hours. Everybody else is playing fantasy football. They're watching the Red Zone channel. They're flipping around. They're getting scores and highlights on their phones. They're getting games through streaming. The idea of this NFL being this appointment television where people would sit down for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours on Sunday and watch games nonstop, seems to be something that the older generation does. The younger generation does not. They have too much to do.
It's amazing. Michael McCarthy, the Sporting News, with us. I fully anticipated when I asked you if the NFL was in trouble, you were going to say, nah, people are watching in bars. They're watching on Twitter. They're still there. I'm shocked that we've reached a level where this bulletproof league that, you heard the quote from the concussion movie, they own a day of the week, have put themselves in trouble.
It shouldn't be shocking. Sports goes through cycles. Remember, 50 years ago, the top sports in the country were boxing and horse racing. They self-destructed through the greed and corruption. The NFL is incredibly powerful now, and, chances are it's going to ride out of this just fine, and, it will have great ratings again next year. But, they also shouldn't take it for granted. You can't insult sport fans through greed and disrespecting what they believe in and think they're going to stick by you. They're not.
I'm going to move this away a little bit from the NFL and more towards the sports shows that we see all the time. A sports show I grew up with, I used to watch every morning, was SportsCenter. And we're continuing to see the SportsCenter format changing at different times throughout the day. Now we're hearing news that Mike and Mike, which we have here on 104.5, the team and their constant guests, Jamel Hill and Michael Smith, they're taking over the 6 o'clock format for SportsCenter. What do you believe is the future of that show on ESPN?
Well, SportsCenter is a very interesting question because it's always been the flagship for ESPN. Everybody who's come up through the ranks at ESPN has come through SportsCenter. But there's also critics like Jamie Horowitz of FS1 who say that the show is a dinosaur, that people like you who are getting your highlights from your cell phones, they're not watching SportsCenter anymore to see Steph hit the three-pointer. They already saw it on their phones. So I think what you're seeing here is ESPN is trying to put some last life into a format that worked extremely well for 30 years, but is now kind of sagging. I think you saw it with Scott Van Pelt. They kind of gave him his own show at midnight to kind of do his own version of SportsCenter. And you mentioned Jamel and Michael. They looked at it, two of the young stars in Bristol. So I think putting them at 6 o'clock is a big move and a big statement by ESPN to say, we're going to do what it takes to keep SportsCenter on top.
You brought up the name Jamie Horowitz. The people who may not be familiar with that name, he's the guy who runs everything at Fox Sports. And Fox Sports is already making a move now on the television side where they're going to bring in a former guest on our show. He's an upstate New York guy. I went to school at Syracuse, Nick Wright. He used to host out in Houston. There's a rumor that he might be a part of this new morning show. Is that what we're going to see, these sports opinion-based guys like Nick Wright kind of take over the television world and make it all about debate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
I don't know if they're going to take over, but it certainly seems to be heading in that direction. Jimmy Horowitz calls these people opinionists. So in other words, rather than the neutral anchors just giving you highlights, you tune in to see people arguing and passionate. The way we talk about sports in bars and fraternities and at home with our friends. Nick Wright, is one of the names I heard when we broke that story that they're planning this morning show. Frankly, I think it's a great idea. I think, that area, that 6 to 9:30 area, just a backwater for them. They do nothing but show college football reruns and some documentaries. Nick Wright is very highly thought of at FS1. He's young. He's got a lot of opinions. He fits the mold of what they're looking for today.
Michael McCarthy of the Sporting News, man, we really appreciate your time. I got guys in here telling me that the NFL's screwing up in the ratings, and I'm telling him he's crazy. You just made me wrong, but it was still worth hearing.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
He made you wrong, and also he supported more Syracuse guys on television like Nick Wright. So I'm also all for that, being a Syracuse guy myself. Look at the face Levack's getting me. He's so upset by it.
You're welcome anytime, Michael, but I'm gonna have to bar Gaz from the studio when you call. Thank you so much, man. We really appreciate your time.
Take care, guys. Thank you.